Okay, good, good, good. Let's get right into this video. The question of the video that we're going to be answering is whether Biden's, which is the Social Security Fairness Act bill, which he has yet to sign into law, but we can be assured he's likely going to do it. And the reason why is the Social Security Administration is already talking about how to instruct their employees what to say if it goes and gets passed it. But the bottom line is this. His bill, which is promoted by a couple of Republicans, but mostly Democrats, essentially gives a benefit back to the government workforce. Okay. Now, the government workforce, they're saying, okay, this will affect probably around, 3 million individuals, and it will cost around 200 billion over a 10-year period. So just to be fair, the government through military aid has spent around 60 something billion to Ukraine. And then through all the humanitarian aid and all of the additional aid that we give these Ukrainians who are coming over as refugees, asylum seekers, it's somewhere likely around 200 billion. So what we've given since Russia started kicking up some dirt with Ukraine to Ukraine, 200 billion-ish, is around what that Social Security Fairness Act will cost over the next 10 years, which will, of course, reduce the amount of time that the trust funds have, although the trust funds are actually getting worse and worse and worse. So instead of being potentially speeding it up by 6 months, it could be more. It could speed it up by a year from the actual retirement trust funds running out in 2033 to potentially 2032. Which brings us to our very important point here, which is that why are the politicians passing something that makes the trust funds run out faster? Well, it's simple. Both the Republicans and the Democrats want to go and look at 1983 and change back all the things that were passed and use them as things that will get them elected going forward. Because all of the changes in 1983, a little bit of the 70s, basically are things that they can change that make small incremental costs of the Social Security system, but above all, gets their butt back into that chair of whatever political office they want to hold. So if we know that basically there's a ratio of 3 million people, 10-year period, 200 billion, then we can start to look at what Trump's going to be doing and how much money it's going to be taking away from the trust funds going forward. Let's just take a quick look and see what's going on with these elderly individuals, because with Trump's system, Trump has the plan, instead of helping out government-based employees, Trump has the plan of helping out all aged, retired individuals who are working. All right. So his main thing is, if you are working, we are not going to tax your benefits with that 25,000 at 50% or 34,000 at 85% ratio. That's his big thing. And the reason he wants to do that is because he wants retired people who want to work their way out of the poverty created by this economy. Many will call it the Biden economy. Some of you will get offended by it being called the Biden economy. Although, to be fair, it is what it is. You know what I mean? It is what it is. So, some people scream at me. They're like, don't call it the Biden economy. Those are the same people who told me 3 years ago that I need to respect how amazing the Biden economy is. And they go back and forth. Be fair. Be fair. We're gonna step on Trump's toes. We're gonna step on Biden's toes with this video. But to be fair, the government has not been going so well. Okay, petrodollars, total crap. Our ability to get student loans taken care of so that our youth can innovate for the future, total junk there. It's just not going in the right direction. Not to mention the reserve currency, which we're not going into. All right, here's the deal. Aging in America. Basically from the National Council on Aging, did this article. And here's what they found. And some of these things are pretty interesting. So using new insights from the ACL's 2023 profile of older Americans and other sources, they were able to paint an eye-opening portrait of our nation's older adults, including key trends, challenges, and disparities, older adult demographics at a glance. Let me give you some of these details so you understand, because this is how older Americans are doing and how many of them are likely to have to go back to work because they can't afford being retired. Okay, so let's get into this real quick. There were 57.8 million adults aged 65 plus living in the U.S. in 2022. Now remember, there's more retired people living out of the U.S. on top of that number, okay? So when they say how many Social Security recipients are there, there's like 72 million, but we don't, I have to see exactly. I have some of the numbers here and they're all different, but, somewhere in there is the perfect magic number of how many retired people are only receiving retirement benefits, both living in the U.S. and outside of the U.S., okay? So right off the bat, just to be clear, we have to find a metric for how many of these individuals are retired and also working and also earning over $25,000. Now, this included 31.9 million women and 25.9 million men. Now, when it comes to retirement, women always say that women have the worst deal because they have to take care of parents and so on and so forth and yada yada. That has been true for decades and decades. It is now switching where women are getting the advantage because they live a hell of a lot longer than men. If you live a lot longer, I mean many, many years, you get to collect a lot more Social Security checks, which means you get a significant benefit boost compared to your male counterparts. Now, 25% of adults age 65 plus were from racially and ethnic minority communities in 2022. Maine, Florida, West Virginia, and Vermont had the highest percentage of populations age 65 plus in 2022. Now, remember, that's going to tell you something about fertility rates. And one of the biggest problems with this nation is that we're not making enough productive kids. We're actually not making enough kids in general. Like, when they were bringing all these immigrants in, we frankly needed them because, just to be clear, the largest populations in America, your classic Caucasians, they're not making enough babies. That's the bottom line. They're too stressed about student loans. Their culture's been destroyed. They don't know what to do. They have no savings. They're not making enough babies. So the bottom line is that whole group, the biggest chunk of the pie, right, that's supposed to make babies, that go and work and pay taxes to pay for everything, they're not making enough babies. And it's not good because that's the group that holds up Social Security benefits the most. Now, there were 88,988 people age 100 and older in 2022, more than double the number in 1980. Okay, so there's a lot of people living past essentially 100 years old, which is an incredible feat, but it also is highly destructive to Social Security benefits. Now, among adults age 65 plus in 2023, 59% lived with their spouse or partner, while roughly 28% lived alone. Okay, and a lot of that is they'll live alone. They got divorced, their spouse died. Because you get up there when every year that you're married, every year that you age, the percentage of likely that your spouse will pass away and you end up alone increases because they're getting older. Now, the 2022 median income of older adults was $29,740. Okay, so that's important. The median was $29,740, which is above that $25,000 triggering amount for creating that 50% tax on retirement benefits. All right, today's older Americans are healthier overall and living independently for longer. In 2022, the average 65-year-old was expected to live another 18.9 years. But most older people have at least one chronic health condition, and many are dealing with multiple health issues. Data from 2022 revealed the following about leading chronic conditions. Heart disease remains the number one cause of death for all Americans. Arthritis was common among 44% of them. 20.1% of adults age 65 have been diagnosed with diabetes. Obesity was also a significant cause for concern. Nearly 42% of older Americans age 60 plus were considered obese in 2022. And a lot of that is lack of movement. For some reason, there's a lot of elderly people who think that they are definitively you'll get somebody who's 60 and they're like, oh, I'm so old. The weirdest thing that I've seen is that the people who didn't actually work that much in their life, who didn't actually work jobs that were stressful to their body in a physical sense. We're talking like construction jobs, cleaning jobs. When you get people that are like office only people and they didn't work office only jobs for their whole life, for some reason, I don't know what it is, they seem to project an oldness more than people who have actually worked tougher jobs, harder jobs on the body. And as a result, I never get that. I never understand that. And maybe it's them trying to match the persona of what they think they're supposed to be based on what other people are. But at the same time, I've never understood that, why people who had a much more streamlined existence, simpler, not a stressful job when it comes to physical labor, they age faster. I don't know what the deal is. Whereas the people, now obviously you get people who are beat up. They're beat up in the blue collar work stuff and their bodies are destroyed, and that is what it is. But, still, a lot of them, they get that mentality going. This is how I achieve. This is how I do. It's a very interesting study, but there's no studies that have been done on it other than me just interacting with lots of people in that age group. But something to think about. All right. So poverty. Here's the problem with the poverty among older adults. Economic insecurity is a pressing issue for older adults. Among Americans aged 65 plus, 10.2%, or 5.9 million people, which is above the 3 million that'll be helped by the Social Security Fairness Act, which, remember, the Social Security Fairness Act helps out people who already have, for the most part, a pension or spouse that worked for the government somewhere else in the timeline, right? So these were people that were never going to be hyper impoverished. It's basically a Tiffany deal from Democrats to boost government employees to help them out and, basically continue to push that. So now the other side of the coin is I've noticed that a lot of government employees are now leaning more Democrat or going more Democrat at the lower levels. So, at the initial county level, you go, basic, initial political positions, stuff like that. Heavy Democrat, heavy numbers for the Democrat, increasing versus the Republican numbers. Okay. Now let's see. So Americans age 65 plus, 10.2% live below the official poverty line in 2022. That's 5.9 million of them, with 14.1% meeting the definition under the supplemental poverty measure, according to the latest U.S. Census Bureau data. So bottom line is the people who need a boost the most are not the government people who have another pension. It's these impoverished people who are just in a really, really bad situation. However, on the other side, I ain't going to complain. Whenever the government decides to help the American people, I am not going to complain because the government is very good at selling the American people down the road, bankrupting them, sending all their money overseas. The American government is honestly treacherous. It is something that if we were in a court of law, we would probably put them behind bars. That's the polite way of putting it, okay? Against the backdrop of rising inflation, older Americans are struggling with higher costs related to housing, utilities, groceries, and healthcare. Many also face diminished savings and job loss. Even for older adults who are making ends meet, a single health or other emergency can quickly tip the financial scales because they don't have money. Every month, they get what they get, they spend it. They get what they get, and they spend it. Some key facts on poverty among older adults. Of older adults who reported any income in 2022, 10% earned less than $10,000. Okay, so there's a really strong amount of impoverished individuals out there that we have to find a way to help them out because living below that line is not living as an American. It's living something completely different than that. Now, older women of color face greater rates of poverty than any other group. Nearly 1 in 5 Latino or Black women over age 65 plus live in poverty, which is double the rate for white women and nearly triple the rate for white men. So there's still a lot of disparity, racial disparity going on, where basically certain communities aren't having jobs that are paying them money that is equivalent to other individuals, the Caucasians, and as a result of that, their Social Security benefits are not as good at the end of the day. Older adults living alone are especially vulnerable. With 17.7% living in poverty versus 6.6% living with families, the rates were particularly high for Asian American women living alone at 37%. So I don't know why that is. Maybe somebody from the Asian background can walk us through essentially what the deal is with why Asian females end up living alone, okay, at that age group. Now, here's the deal. Older populations and hunger. Poverty and hunger go hand in hand, and too many older adults don't have enough to eat. According to the USDA Food and Nutrition Service in 2022, 9.1% of all households with an older adult were food insecure. 9.1% of households with an older adult. So a massive number here. With a higher rate, 11.4%, seen among those aged 65 plus living alone. So the point that I'm getting at here is Trump's plan that's going to help people who are able to work will end up allowing those people who are elderly, who are working, to help other people, which is what they always do. Elderly people who have some money coming in, they tend to help their friends, help other people, etc. It's not just grandma giving money to the kids on their birthday. It's older people helping out other older people, taking them out to lunch, taking them out to dinner, things like that. So Trump's plan on a moral compass is far superior to Biden's plan. Biden's plan on a moral compass is giving more money to people who already have a good pension and then removing this poverty bonus option that they had and then giving it back to them. So on a moral compass, Trump's Social Security law is far superior. It's going to help a lot more people who can potentially help people that are part of that class, elderly class of individuals. Now, let's go through this real quick. All right, so with that said, Older adults living with disability have nearly triple the rate of food insecurity as their peers without disability. And that's usually because they weren't able to work as long during their life to pay in as much to Social Security. Hunger has a profound impact on these older adults with nutrition, which increases their risk of basically dying as a result of diabetes, depression, asthma, etc. In fiscal year 2022, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which a lot of you guys see as food stamps, served 6.5 million households with an older adult. So right there, it's more than double, right? It's more than double, okay, the amount of people that the Social Security Fairness Act will help out. In this instance, the supplemental nutrition, so basically food stamps went to 6.5 million households that had an older adult in them. So, you're starting to see and shape and understand, with the problem here is that we need to find a way to make the elderly capable of affording their own lives and helping out other people in their class, right? Which is based on their age. All right. Many mature adults continue to work well into retirement. And this is where we get into retirement because remember, Trump's saying, I don't want to tax retirement benefits. I want every retired person to keep as much of their money as they can. Because remember, retired people are getting taxed on their earnings just like everybody else. But then on top of that, the government said, you know what? If you earn over this amount, we're going to tax your retirement benefits too. And then they didn't raise that amount over the years. They kept it the same since 1983 era. And the crazy part about it is they only really raised it once, which is through Clinton from basically $32,000 to $34,000 for the 85% of the retirement benefits being taxed. So, just to be fair, every single thing in the SSA should be on a cost of living increase going forward. And of course, we have to fix the COLA. The COLA cost of living adjustment math is total BS, but it is what it is. So anyways, here's the deal. Many mature adults continue to work well into retirement. We know this because we see old people working all the time now, whether it's out of financial necessity or personal preference. Although it's almost always out of financial necessity, personal preference tends to lean towards those who have white-collar jobs, who already have a lot of money, that are just doing it because they've done it. It's all they know. They have shit family lives. Their kids hate to, it's not all of them, but they have a problem because, their family life, the personal life didn't work out. So they just keep doing the work thing because it's what they know. They're going to leave their kids more money because it's the only way they can make up for not being present, right? Working for longer can help older people stay physically active and mentally sharp while maintaining important social connections. Employers stand to benefit from an older workforce as well. Seasoned workers, okay, basically go ahead and add skill and expertise into the mix that younger individuals can't do it. They got the knowledge, experience, reliability. They'll show up on time. They show up each day. That, unless they get sick or have a medical issue, that can't always be matched by the younger counterparts. Now, some fast facts about older Americans and employment, okay? In 2023, 11.2 million Americans, okay? So 11.2, age 65 plus, which is a massive number compared to just the 3 million people affected by the Social Security Fairness Act, which includes those who are older and those who are future people going to receive. So it's not just like the current, like we're just doing current retired people. That the 3 million, that's talking about basically current and future people. So it's not even a fair metric that we're doing here. There's a lot more. Trump's bill is going to affect a lot more people in a much better way for the future of the economy, for the future of their standard of living, right? That line where they're going to have a standard that they're going to be able to stay with. Trump's bill of getting rid of the taxation is just better. It's better for the number of people. It's better. It allows people to keep what they've earned, which is emotionally, I think, important. Because, let me put it to you this way. When you get a check and you see county taking money out, state taking money out, Fed taking money out, special interest taking money out, right? And then you have benefits you've already paid to, and then they're taking a percentage out of that. That is called depression. And it should be illegal, but this country overtaxes its citizens. If you look at other countries, and of course, on the Republican side, they're like, this country has no taxes on that. And then on the Democrat side, they're like, look at this amazing country over here. It has a 90% tax rate on the super rich. Isn't that amazing? And anybody with a brain knows that that's the dumbest thing they've ever heard, because no rich people will make money in a country that has a 90% tax rate. Come on, turn it on. You know what I mean? Like, it's obvious. Those rich people will move to another nation, which gives them significant tax benefits and not have to give away, all but 10% of their earnings. So Again, though, people don't know. I understand it. They're on a journey to learn the way the world works, and that's fine. All right, so here's the deal. In 2023, 11.2 million Americans aged 65 plus were working on proactively seeking employment. Okay, so there were a lot of people who were trying to get a job who were elderly, and that doesn't include the people who already have a job. Okay, so just to be clear, 11.2 million people were looking for a job. That's a lot of old people needing money. Okay. Women represent 46% of all older workers. Older workers report being more satisfied with their jobs than younger workers. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 9.5% of the civilian labor force is expected to be older than 65 by the year 2030, which is just another way of saying the amount of boomers on retirement is going to explode. And then we got Gen Y coming up, and the numbers, the millennials can't afford all y'all. That's the reality. Millennials cannot afford to pay for the retired boomers. Now, here's the deal, okay? We've now gone through the basics here of the workforce, the elderly, some statistics that are relevant to it. Let's talk about what's happening in essentially Trump's plan to go ahead and not tax them as much. I want to make it as simple as possible. There was an article that was done by Sean Williams. Is President-elect Donald Trump going to change Social Security? History couldn't be any clearer. Although we do now know, I have a pretty good understanding as to what he wants to do. Let me find you the specific details here where they had it in the article. I don't want to waste too much time here. I want to get right to the source of it. It was over here on this page that they actually did the write-up. Yeah, okay, right here. All right. Beginning in 1984, up to 50% of benefits could be exposed to the federal tax rate if provisional income, which is adjusted gross income plus tax-free interest plus 1/2 benefits, topped $25,000 for a single filer or $32,000 for couples filing jointly. In 1993, remember how we talked about Clinton? Clinton administration added the second tax tier, allowing up to 85% of benefits to be taxed if provisional income surpassed $34,000 for single filers, for $44,000 for couples filing jointly. So in other words, way back in the day, they set these amounts. 25,000, for 32,000 for the couple, and then basically if you're in over, essentially 34,000 as a single or $44,000, as a couple, while you're working, you're earning that money, and it's provisional income. It's adjusted gross income plus tax-free interest plus 1/2 of the benefits, topping those amounts. So if you as a single person earned over $25,000 or earned over $34,000, your retirement benefits would get taxed, right? The retirement benefits at 25% would get taxed, 25,000 would get taxed 50%. If you earned about 34,000, they would get taxed 85% of them. So here's the bottom line. Trump said, screw that. That is unfair, unjust, immoral, horrible. And he's right. He's right. It is a far superior law than the Social Security Fairness Act, because instead of helping people who already have multiple pensions, you are now basically helping the impoverished find a way to survive in their elder years. So from a moral standpoint, the Social Security Fairness Act, which usually the Democrats come out with the better moral option, they tend to come out with the more ethical option, for the impoverished and things like that. That's not what happened here. The flip happened. Normally you see Republicans giving extra money to the working class who have special benefits and things like that. Not this time around. It's the exact opposite. The Democrats gave the Tiffany deal to the working class who were government employees who already have pensions, whereas Trump is giving the opportunity to the working class elderly who are going to also help other elderly with the, keeping more of their income, taking them out to eat, buying them food, because, they're all part of that same elderly class. They're all friends and things like that. So here's the deal. Trump said, we're going to get rid of that. And I believe him. And there's no way that they can stop him from doing that, because both the Democrats are going to have to vote for it and the Republicans are going to be on board with Trump. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm going to get in trouble for it. I know that. So before I say this, please remember to like. Please remember to like and subscribe. And if you really want to help me out, go to Google, type in Disability Resolution Law Firm or Disability Resolution Florida, and throw some 5 stars or throw whatever stars you want up on that Google profile. That's my law firm. I am the most viewed and subscribed to disability attorney in America. Now, here's the thing, and I'm going to get in trouble for this. I can feel it, and it's going to be a shit show, and I know it's coming. Here's the thing, and I'm going to say it. I believe more Democrats will vote for Trump's Social Security, like eradication of taxes on Retirement Benefits Act, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to call it. I believe more Democrats will vote for Trump's act, his bill, than Republicans. And here's why. There are a lot of Republican in name only Republicans who are classical Republicans. They're your classical Cheneys, your Bushes, your stuff like that. And those Republicans come from the classical, like early piano version of Christian pumping, this is the way it must be, fiscally responsible. That old school type of like, this is the only way Republican. A lot of those individuals will literally try to bite off their fingers just to not let Trump have his day. And so I think the Democrats will either go one of two ways. Either the Democrats won't vote for it at all, because Democrats are good at combining everybody. They're good at herding cats, is the phrase that they use. They're good at getting everybody together. They're either not vote for it at all, or every single Democrat will vote for it. And here's the amazing thing. Not every Republican's going to vote for it, because some of those Republicans, they hate Trump. They absolutely are disgusted by him. They hate him so much. Yes, the Democrats hate him too, but if the Democrat doesn't vote for this change, if they don't vote for this change, I guarantee you, at least I believe, they won't get another election cycle. When they hit the re-election, they won't get put in, because the number one thing that people will use against them is that they didn't vote to end extra taxation on the retired. And that is a powerful commercial. It's a powerful t-shirt. All right, let's keep rolling through this. So here's the bottom line. The primary gripe is that these income thresholds have never been adjusted for inflation, right? That $25,000 and $34,000 you earn above them, right? Then they tax your retirement benefits. Well, they were never hooked onto an increase that was supposed to happen over and over and over again. So 1984, the first one was passed. Then 1993, the second one was passed, and they just sat there. They just sat there and didn't increase them. They should be well over $100,000 to go ahead and actually put them into action. Now think about it. If an older person earns $50,000, $75,000, even $100,000, we shouldn't be taxing the retirement benefits. If they're earning over $150,000, yeah, maybe. If they're earning over $250,000, that's a better argument. What about over $450,000? Well, now that kind of makes sense. It kind of gives, It kind of makes sense. The whole thing is progressive. It screws over the rich. It screws over the middle class, but it helps the poor. That's how our country works. So that's the kicker. They never raised those amounts throughout the year, and that has royally screwed over the elderly as a result of that. All right. Now, with that said, we now know that ethically, morally, the Trump Social Security change is far superior to the Biden Social Security Fairness Act, even though Biden hasn't signed it yet, and even though some Republicans voted for it and they pushed for it, and there were a lot of co-sponsors for it. Republicans were on board partly, etc. Now, I want to go through some basics real quick. Older workers, and this is from the Pew Research Center, older workers are growing in numbers and earning higher wages. So what's happening is the older workers have now created a culture in the work environment where it's okay to be working at 65. It's okay to be working at 70. There's even people working at 75. Now, some of you will say, well, that's not fair. How dare you? How could you? That's not fair. Blah, 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 blah. You have to understand, what's fair and not fair is not so much your, beating heart. It's having enough money to feel okay throughout the month. Some people are like, oh, you need to have enough money to have food. No. The standard is to have enough money to be comfortable. Okay? You want to go on a vacation once or twice a year? Cool. You want to have a car that works? Cool. The standard is to be comfortable. That's not the American standard. The American standard is to have way more than comfortable. But the baseline standard is to have enough to be comfortable, not have enough just to put food on the table. That's poverty. We don't want that. We don't want fourth world nation problems. We want America pushing to benefit Americans. Okay, that's the bottom line, right? We are America. America has to take care of America. America's $36 trillion in debt. America has a lot of problems when it comes to the reserve currency. America can't figure out what the hell it's doing with oil, although Biden became a super producer of oil, the largest producer of oil in his last year of his presidency. I wonder why. You all know why. So it's very, very, very interesting to see how these elderly people have created a new culture as to them being present in the workplace. Paul Harrison, thank you for the $20 donation. I super appreciate it. Thank you. Put a little heart on that. Thank you. Now, with that said, I want to go into essentially this Pew Research Center document. I really liked it. I thought it was a good read, and it kind of gives you some understanding as to what's happening with all these elderly people in the workforce. Because man, they're taking over. They're going back to work. Employers love them. They do what they're supposed to do. To be fair, there's actually, as of a month ago, although it just changed, the law firm operated with more retired employees than non-retired employees. Because to be fair, law firms, they do better when it comes to back office people. All right, so just a quick side note. Back office, where you're labeling PDFs, scanning documents, interacting with the SSA, making phone calls, precision, schedule, orientation, order, stuff like that. Back office tends to do better with retired individuals. They're just more orderly. They're good at it. They're very good at it. Now, with that said, the law firm does employ the great ultimate Karen. She is the ultimate Karen. There's no Karen that is more Karen than Karen. Karen, we keep away from clients. She is great at labeling PDFs, organizing documents, uploading things, cross-checking files, but we don't allow her to talk to the clients because she's just mean. She's so mean. Now, she says exactly what I'm thinking in my head out loud, which I'm not allowed to do, but she does it. So sometimes if I ever do a video with her and you see me smiling, it's because I'm a shit poker player, and what's coming out of her mouth is what I actually feel a lot of times. But the bottom line is, a funny side story. One time I took her to the homeless center to do front office. Front office is where it's like sales, interacting with the client, stuff like that. So anyways, I took her there, and she went there, and I was like, look, you got to cover for me. Just cover for me for this day. Maybe you can do some more in the future. The facility was like, please do not, under any circumstances, send Karen back here ever again. Please, dude. She was so mean to so many clients. I was like, what'd she do? And they were like, she told this one client this. She told this one client that. And I had to laugh because that's Karen. That's Karen. Karen does that. And so to me, I employ the ultimate Karen. And I'm very passionate and feel strongly about how cool that is. I just think it's cool. All right. Anyways, side story. Anyway, front office people interacting with the clients. Usually younger people tend to do well with that. It is what it is. They're just ready to do the sales, really pumped up, happy, etc. But yes, exactly. Powder Puff said the real Karen. I got to do a video with her because if you see her, she is the exact potions worth of person that is the ultimate Karen. She is the Warhammer 40,000 Karen. She is the empirical definitive Karen. Anyway, point is, let's get back to this. Here we go. All right. So bottom line is this. Older workers are growing in numbers and higher earning wages. Okay. Roughly 1 in 5 Americans aged 65 and older, 19%, were employed in 2023. Nearly double the share of those were working 35 years ago. So just to be clear, 35 years ago, the amount of older people has doubled, okay, in the workforce. Not only are older workers increasing in numbers, but their earning power has grown in recent decades. In 2022, the typical worker age 65 or older earned $22 per hour, okay? But now that's basically up from 1987, which was $13. So 1987, $13, 65 or older earn now $22 per hour. But remember, you got to remember inflation. You look at inflation, you look at the past 4 years, it's like, shit, that's not that good of they should be getting more. I don't mean to make fun of Biden that much, but can we just be realistic? He wasn't present, mental dysfunction, had a hard time getting things done. And to be fair, he needed to be nicer to oil. If he just got the oil teddy bear and gave it a hug once in a while, this planet would have been a little bit safer, in my opinion. But anyways, let's keep rolling. Earnings for younger workers haven't grown as much. As a result, the wage gap between older workers and those ages 25 to 64 has narrowed significantly. Linked to their higher wages, today's older workers are different from older workers of the past in other important ways. Here we go. They're working more hours on average than in previous decades. Today, 62% of older workers are working full-time compared with 47% in 1987. They're more likely to have a 4-year college degree than in the past. Some 44% of older workers today have a bachelor's degree or more education compared with 18% in 1987. That puts them about on par with workers ages 25 to 64. What's interesting about that is that younger people are now going into these blue collar oriented fields to make any money because, you just can't make money anymore in the standard way. So what's interesting is that we're going to be actually seeing a wave of elderly people getting more education, going back to school, etc., to continue their work placement. Now, this is a tough thing because we don't want to see people retiring having to go back to work. But as a result of America being piss poor managed by, let's call it like it is, degenerate politicians, just absolutely. And have any of you guys noticed that the politicians cannot run companies, but yet we seem to keep putting them in charge of the wealth of that county, the wealth of that state, the wealth of the country? Have you guys noticed that? That we should be picking great businesswomen and businessmen to run our nation. Instead, we pick people who talk about freedom and hope and change and cuddles and banana splits. Let me tell you something real quick. Side note, and it's going to be really quick. And I don't want to get too far into this, okay? Freedom in America doesn't mean what they sell it to be. It's not Harleys, beer, screaming eagles, all that. It's not that. Freedom in America is the opportunity / right to participate in capitalism, to make a lot of money, and then have more of those freedoms that are actually advertised to the American people. As a result, I think the biggest problem that the Democrats had with Kamala was that her message was, I don't even know what it really was at the end. I read through her website, I read through what was going on. They could have done way better for her. They were trying to sell this idea of hope and change. No. The Democrats had to sell opportunities, fiscal opportunities to buy, that house, opportunities to have a job that would pay them more, opportunities to have the money to innovate, to have the money to go back to school, opportunities. That was the exact thing the Democrats needed, and they did not sell that at all. They didn't sell it at all. I mean, they sold it a little bit here and there, but it was too ethereal. It was too in theory over here. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. They did a much better job selling things with Biden. If you go back and look at Biden's original commercials, his original website pre-White House, way better job. Granted, they had more time with Biden. Granted, Biden was more experienced. Granted, Biden, when he was still cognitively there, was a better schmoozer than she is. So, there are a lot of advantages to him. But again, they didn't sell the direction right. All right, now let's get rolling with this. Now, they're more likely than in previous decades, elderly people to be receiving employer-provided benefits such as pension plans and health insurance. The same does not hold true for younger workers, whose access to these employer-provided benefits has decreased in recent decades. So just to be clear, people my age don't get pensions for the most part. People my age don't put a lot of money into 401ks or Roths because we don't trust the government, and the government legislates that stuff. Okay. For example, among workers age 65 and older, 36% now have the option to participate in an employer or union sponsored retirement plan, either an old style pension or a 401k type plan, up from 33% in 1987. Only 41% of younger workers have access to this type of retirement plan at work, down from 55% in 1987. And here's why. The elderly go find a job that gives them the benefits, medical insurance, some extra monthly this, the benefits that they want. They are more aware of it, whereas the younger are out there just trying to make more per month because they're trying to make a certain amount. Now, the younger generations are worried about smart investments, investing into things like rental homes, investing into things that are, we call them like cult interest products. Cult interest products are like things that you buy that as they age, there will always be a cult following that will want to spend more money to be able to own it. Okay. So, like a vintage guitar amp or a vintage guitar or a vintage car or this or that. Things that they know will increase significantly in price as you own them. Things that don't, right, are things like RVs, things like, houses that are in the middle of nowhere that are falling apart and being destroyed. Those types of things don't increase in worth. Okay, now, with that said, by gender, women make up a larger share of the older workforce than they have in the past. Today, women represent 46% of all workers age 65 and older. By comparison, their share was 40% in 1987 and 33% in 1964. We know that women will surpass men in the workforce. which is interesting because then it brings into question, well, how does that work with fertility? And that's why I've been such a huge advocate of women having lots of months available to them when they actually go to have a child. But to be fair, when women are working and working higher level jobs and there's more stress on them and they're taking on more financial burdens of having to pay certain pills or certain bills, the bottom line, yeah, it's a pill to swallow. I tell you, when you get some of these bills, you're like, holy cannoli. The problem is that women are not as interested in fertility, having babies, having kids, because they're stuck in the rinse repeat of having to try to afford a standard of living that their parents enjoyed easily before them because the money was worth more. Okay, let's keep rocking and rolling. But the beauty of the elderly women is that they're not worried about that. They're not worried about having another kid. They're out there to make the money, get the benefits, get it rolling. Now, here's the thing. Okay. The trend mirrors the pattern seen among younger workers. Women now make up 47% of employed adults ages 25 to 64, up from 44% in 1987 and 33% in 1964. In addition, older women who are working today are much more likely than their predecessors to have a 4-year college degree. 40% do, compared with only 12% of working older women in 1987. Within the older workforce, women are now about as likely as men to have a bachelor's degree or more education. 42% and 45% do, respectively. So what's happening is women are becoming the standard and will actually surpass men when it comes to education. And there's a reason why that is. Men need to do the shittier jobs. We do. We have to do them because we're bigger, we're stronger, our bodies can take more physical abuse on the oil rig, holding the chainsaw, pushing the tree over, working the heavy equipment, replacing parts on stuff. Our bodies can handle more abuse, and therefore we are taking jobs that usually require less formal traditional education. Although remember, still, you have to get massively educated to know how to take apart an engine or a diesel engine or this or that or this or that. Even the motors that they're coming out with all these new Teslas and things like that, you have to go ahead and have another education beyond your classic college degree, which college degrees are totally worthless for a lot of reasons. You know, they teach you how to be a better citizen, but when it comes to a specific function, they're just not detailed enough, which is why so many people have to get a master's in, and it just keeps growing. Oh, we've got Kimberly and Wendy. Kimberly has a master's. Wendy only has a college degree. We will take Kimberly because Kimberly has more education, yada, yada, yada. And that's, it just builds and builds. Now, with that said, okay, I just want to point out something. I think it's incredibly important when it comes to this. Retirement plans have evolved. Policy changes have discouraged early retirement. The SSA discourages early retirement. They want you retiring at 70 at the maximum retirement age. 62 early, 67 full for most people. Well, it's actually 66 in like 10 months. And then basically up here, right, at 70 is your full retirement. That's where you get your max penny. If Trump passes this, it will affect more people. If Trump passes this, getting rid of taxation on the retired, okay, very important. Batty Beth said, I love banana splits with loads of pine. Yeah, pineapple sauce is amazing. Pear sauce is amazing too. It's undersold. People don't realize it, but pear juice or sauce, mango concentrate, let me tell you, I will show you how to become a diabetic in 5 easy steps. Now, with that said, Trump's bill will affect more people. It will affect more impoverished people. It will financially allow these people to have a better standard of living. It will be more ethical because it allows them to keep more of the money that they've earned, worked for, and paid for. It also will help the general community of individuals because the working class will help other people who are elderly find other jobs because they're establishing a culture of older people working in that environment. The only question is that I can't answer, how much money will it cost the Social Security trust funds, which nobody has a clear answer on. We know, right, 200 billion, what we've likely spent on Ukraine. Maybe we're a little low, maybe we're a little high. Nobody really knows. Nobody really knows. Between SSI benefits for people on Ukraine to, individuals who are receiving a monthly pension on behalf of U.S. citizens who live in Ukraine, nobody really knows. We don't know. We don't know what we spent over there. Like, the military's like, well, we gave them around 60-something billion in aid. But that's not all of it. That's the little number. So the point I'm getting at is, will it cost because they're not paying these bennies in, right? We're not taking away benefits from the retired through this taxation form. Will it cost Social Security benefits more money than the Social Security Fairness Act? I suspect it will, but all the other factors are better. Not just better financially, but they're better morally, they're better ethically, they're better directly for the impoverished. So who has the better bill? Donald Trump, by far, not even close. They're not even in the similar realm. But, again, I stand by, if we can find a way to give more of this money back to Americans instead of spending it on special interest bonds that are then spent on whatever the hell the government wants to spend it on, I'm all for it. I see the America that we have now as a traitor to the American people because it has consistently stolen, borrowed, converted in title, and then spent and then given back too little of an interest. I have seen this government not spend the money that's supposed to on its American people and then complain that the American people aren't doing enough for it. Let me ask you something. We're not in the times of see what you can do for your country, not for yourself. We're in the times of the government has to be completely changed out at the top so that we can refocus things on the American people having enough to have the best standard of living. Some people will say, well, that's not fair to the rest of the world. Okay. What do you think the balance is? Starving Americans, 36 trillion in debt like we have now? Because whatever we have now is the worst potential position we could be in. We can't print money. We can't actually take more loans. We're stuck. We can't afford what these politicians have done to us. So I'm ready. I'm ready for a change. I'm open. I'm open to it. Okay. All right. With that said, Attorney Walter Hnot, I'm excited to see what the future is going to be. I'm excited to see what the Democrat and Republican politicians are going to do to Trump because Trump's on a little island. He thinks he's big and strong. He thinks he's mega MAGA. He thinks he's mega MAGA. But when push comes to shove and they got to vote on this thing, watch. See how many Democrats get on board. I bet you it'll be all of them. But then watch the Republican side. A lot of them are going to betray him. I guarantee it. I guarantee you there's going to be a percentage of them that stick it to him. All right. I'll catch you all a little bit later. You have a wonderful day. Merry Christmas for those. Happy Hanukkah for others and other holidays as well to everybody. Please remember to take care of yourself. I'm going to be going ahead and going outside and working, which is always, I actually like working outside, though. I grew up on a farm. So with that said, please remember to like, subscribe, become a member if you want. Head over to Google, type in Disability Resolution Law Firm or Disability Resolution Florida. If you have a legal question, you can always call up. I do go live on Mondays and Thursdays on YouTube. Just when you call in, use a fake name. And then if you have a big question or a situation, there's a mini contract below where you can hire me for an hour. It takes up my lunch break, and we talk through and figure out the timelines of how to fix your issue. Okay? Lots of people with CDI units on them, people converting from their job over to the disability system and want to have a plan, etc. I will catch you later. You have a wonderful night, and we will go from there. It's a wonderful day, and go have some lunch, and please take care of yourself. All right? Do the best you can, and I will catch you likely either later tonight or tomorrow. Thank you so much. Attorney Walter Hnot, have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.